Hello, folks, and welcome to our March 17th, St. Patrick's Day regular council meeting. Uh, we'll start our day off with our announcements. I'll start with it, I guess. I'll go with our reminder that Coffee with Council is going to be on Monday, April 6th at Cafe Olay from 11:30 to 1 again. We'll give that a go. We want to connect with residents, and please join us on the first Monday of the month for a cup of coffee and conversation. All right, who's going to be next? Deputy Mayor Kalafa.
Just want to say Loud as Hell Open Air Festival is kicking off its first fundraiser this year. The band From Beneath from Winnipeg will be at Neighbors Pub this Thursday, March 26th, 18 plus show. Go to loudashell.ca for more information. I also just want to express my appreciation to Public Works through this freeze-thaw season. I mean, we're going from a plow to hip waders almost daily, and understand that it's a lot of work to keep up with, and appreciate that.
Thank you for that. Who's next? Oh, Councillor Hardy.
Just going to reiterate from last week, quick reminder that March 27th is the Membership Appreciation Day at the Aquaplex and the BCF. They have many prizes. Eric, I just moved my... They have many prizes for members to enter when they attend either facility. The rec team will also have snacks and beverages provided throughout the day. And members are also welcome to bring a friend into the facility for free.
Thank you, Councillor Hardy. And Councillor Hanson.
Well, here we go. The Drumheller Dragons are into the playoffs against Camp Rose, Kodiak, at home on Friday, March 20th, and again on Saturday. They play the second game, so let's fill the Dragons Den and get everybody cheering for them. And also on the weekends, we have the U13 hockey teams hosting the provincials this weekend, so make sure you come out and have a look at these guys.
Thank you for that. All right, Councillor McNeil.
Yes, just want to let folks know that next Tuesday, March 24th, from noon until 3 p.m., you're invited to join a free seminar designed for seniors and the older adult community. The seminar is called Be Scam Smart, AI and Fraud Prevention, and it's at the BCF. It's hosted by the Drumheller FCSS. Speakers include the RCMP, ATB Financial, and Reality Bites. To register, call 403-823-1317. Lunch is provided for the first 80 people who sign up.
Right on. Thanks for that. And next one, Councillor Miller.
The speaker series is wrapping up at the Royal Tyrrell Museum. The last two sessions are this Thursday and next Thursday at 11 a.m. You can get more details about the speaker series at tyrrellmuseum.com.
All right, thank you for that. And Councillor Zarisky.
Yeah, we got another Rumble in the Badlands going on. The Real Canadian Wrestling up at the Stampede Grounds this Saturday. Doors at 6:30, show 7:30. Tickets $30 at the door. My daughter's been going to these, and she says they're just really entertaining.
Right on, yeah, that might be a little different flavor for our big melt off here. Put them in gumboots up there. All right. Our agenda. Can I get someone to adopt our agenda for today? Can I get a motion? Oops.
Your Worship, administration does have two emergent items to add to the agenda today. Under 8.2, under closed session, a CAO update. As per ATIA 19, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, and ATIA 29, advice from officials. As well, item 8.3, recreation and culture asset discussion. As per ATIA 19, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, and ATIA 26, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations.
Okay, can we adopt the amended agenda? Councillor McNeil.
Sure. I move that council adopts the amended agenda for the March 17th, 2026 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Miller. All in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Thank you. All right. Adoption of our minutes from, let's go to 4.1, which is the adoption of our minutes from our March 3rd regular council meeting. Can I get someone to approve that? Deputy Mayor Kalafa.
I'll move the council approve the minutes of the March 3rd, 2026 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a second? Councillor Zaritsky. Thank you. And all in favor? Okay, that's all carried. All right, then on to 4.2. That's the minutes from the March 10th Committee of the Whole. Can I get someone to adopt those? Can you make a motion? Councillor Hardy.
I move that council approves the minutes for the March 10th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting as presented.
And a seconder. Councillor Hanson. All in favor? Okay. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. All right, so now we go to our 5 council boards, our Drumheller Housing Commission, which is 5.1. So that'll be their regular meeting minutes. Councillor Miller.
I move that council accepts the Drumheller Housing Administration meeting minutes for the December 15th, 2025 regular meeting as information.
Thank you for that, Councillor Miller. Can I get a seconder? Councillor McNeil. All in favor? All in favor, carried. Okay, thank you. All right, so that gets us through there. Our delegations, we have our RCMP.
The staff sergeant isn't in the facility right now, so I recommend just moving on to the next item, and then we'll circle back to that item as it rises.
Okay, all right, so 6.1. All right, so then we'll go to number 7, reports from the CAO. And that's 7.1.1, the Rosedale South Land Designation Bylaw. I'll let you go on that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Your Worship. So administration today does have a new land designation bylaw for council consideration. This is for portions of land near the Rosedale berm. Specifically, proposed bylaw number 09.26 intends to designate 2 PULs covering the southern portion of the Rosedale berm, south of Pinter Drive and east of Pinter Road. So as part of the town's flood mitigation project and our provincial funding agreements, the town and the province and the government of Canada, as per our agreements to construct the flood mitigation berms along portions of the Red Deer River, we do have a requirement to designate said lands involving the berms as either environmental reserve or public utility lot. So these lands specifically, we are asking to be designated as public utility lots. The construction on the Rosedale berm did begin back in the spring of 2025, with most of the work completed later in the fall and in 2025. The parking lot at Rosedale at the Star Mine Suspension Bridge was closed from September 15th to November 21st, 25 to accommodate the work on the Rosedale berm. The berm is now complete with just some additional landscaping work required this spring. Financial impact of this bylaw is minimal. The costs associated with the surveys and the land designation process are covered under the flood mitigation capital project. Our strategic policy alignment is the flood mitigation project is one of the key strategic priorities of this council and administration. And our communication strategy on this is once passed, the town will register the land designation with land titles. As this is an administrative bylaw, notice will not be provided to the general public. Administration is recommending council consider this for first and second reading today. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Mrs. Campbell. Can I get someone to make a motion here on this for our first reading? Deputy Mayor Cloughlin.
I move the council gives first reading to Rosedale South Land Designation Bylaw 09.26 as presented.
Thank you for that. And can I get a seconder? Councillor Hardy. All right, all in favor on that? Okay, looks like it's carried. All right, so then we go to our second reading on that as well. All right, Councillor Miller.
I move the council give second reading to Rosedale South Land Designation Bylaw number 09.26 as presented.
Thank you. And can I get a seconder? Councillor Hanson. All right, all in favor? Oh, any discussion? Yeah. Deputy Mayor Cloughlin.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, sort of the Coles Notes version of why some bylaws need a public hearing and others don't.
Certainly, through the chair. So this is one of the resulting ones. So when we remove a designation, that does require a public hearing, a land designation. And then when we add a new one, that does not require a public hearing.
Okay, any further questions? Nobody else? All right, so all in favor then? Okay, carried. All right, so that's our 7.1.1 by law 9.26. All right, so now we're on to our Central Alberta Assessment Review Board membership review.
Thank you, Your Worship. So administration today is bringing forward this report and it's regards to our assessment review boards. So in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, council must by bylaw establish a local assessment review board and a composite assessment review board to provide the mechanisms necessary for citizens to appeal property tax assessments and tax notices. The town of Drumheller has chosen to be a regional member of a regional board, called the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board. This is administered by the City of Red Deer. The 2026 operational budget here at the town included an allocation of $2,000 as our membership fee, which was based on the rate outlined in attached on Schedule B of our agreement with the City of Red Deer. An increase to the membership fee pursuant to Section 4.1 of said agreement, which is included in Appendix A, was received in May 2025. However, this change was not incorporated into the 26 budget deliberations due to an oversight. Therefore, administration is now bringing forward this unbudgeted $5,500 shortfall expense for council consideration and approval, as the regional board has increased our membership rate from $2,000 to $7,500 per year. So, council may decide to either approve the unbudgeted expense of $5,500 necessary to retain our membership with the regional board, or withdraw from the agreement. If we chose to do that, we would be required to provide 10 days written notice, and we would also have to repeal our current Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw, as that bylaw is a requirement as per the MGA. We must have a bylaw that states the assessment review board structure and where it's designated and who runs our assessment review boards and what the authority is within those boards. So the town established a joint assessment review board with the city of Red Deer and a number of other partner municipalities back in 2021. This regional board, the difference between a LARB and a CARB is the LARB is for residential inquiries, whereas a CARB is more for your commercial or your multi-lot appeals that come through. So two separate types of boards, same processes, just different topic areas. Also, I should mention with a CARB there, that does involve provincial representation, not just volunteers, board or members at large that make up the assessment review boards. So although our regional membership fee has increased, forming an independent assessment review board would also incur costs, which includes the following. Staff time required to establish and document the operational procedures and bylaws of an assessment review board. There is mandatory training for members and our designated assessment review board clerk, which would be our staff member. We'd also require some additional administrative resources requiring to manage appeal hearings, and these are considered to be quasi-judicial hearings. So there is a certain level of legislative compliance and understanding and process to institute as part of that. This change would somewhat impact the current capacity of our Legislative Services Division, as that's where this would fall. Currently, that department is focusing on updates to our municipal legislation and our records management program, as well as instituting a new privacy management program. However, both our legislative services manager and our coordinator have completed the necessary ARB clerk training earlier this year. Some numbers, statistics when it comes to these appeals in the process. The town receives an average of 5 assessment appeals annually. Over the past 5 years, however, all these appeals were successfully addressed, except for one which did require a hearing. The deadline to submit an appeal every year is 60 days after receiving our assessment notices, which this year the deadline is April 20th, 2026. Although the number of hearings is minimal, the appeal intake also requires administrative involvement to meet our legislative deadlines of the appeal process and the documentation circulation also associated with that. In the end, due to the administrative burden associated with operating our own assessment review board and considering competing priorities currently this year, administration is recommending renewing our membership with the regional board for the time being, but to reevaluate this again in 2027, given our low number of hearings. So the two options that we're presenting to council, the first option 1 on the financial impact is to continue our membership at a cost of $7,500 annually. And an average of $530 in administrative staff costs, because there is still an administrative burden being a part of the regional board. This is actually going to be increasing because, again, as per their notice letter received last summer, they are putting more administrative burden on us versus in years past. Option 2 is the cost of creating our own assessment review board is anticipated to be around $6,500 in staff time and potentially an additional $9,000 annually to manage appeals. That's assuming we have 1 or 2 hearings every year. So these again are just estimates. It's really hard to know what our actual cost would be. Our source of funding for the shortfall of $5,500, should council go with our recommended action in option 1, we would recommend finding that shortfall within our current 2026 operating budget within our CAO office department. Strategic policy alignment. This does align the efficient use of our public funds and cost-effective service delivery is in line with our strategic policies. Communication strategy, should council choose to withdraw from the regional board, administration would reach out to the regional board and provide them the necessary notice to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that information. Can I get someone to make a motion for this? Councillor McNeil.
Yes, I move that council approves the unbudgeted expense of $5,500 to maintain the membership with the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board to be funded within the 2026 operating budget.
Thank you for that, Councillor McNeil. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Hardy. All right, any discussion? Councillor Zarisky.
Yeah, a couple of comments. A little bit of history. The town has in the past had its own assessment review boards. Councillor Hanson Zachrek and I were trained to be assessment review board certified. And then we basically were never called. And over the last number of years, as I say, I think there was one, and we weren't even called for that. So it seemed to be kind of a waste of time because it takes like a 3-day training course to be certified. I've been certified a couple of times now. So it was decided that we go with Red Deer to kind of simplify the process. And it was suggested that we put in our applications as certified assessment review board people to Red Deer. And I've never been called. So I guess they got their own people, which is fine. The one thing I'm just looking at here, do we budget for some of these hearings? Have we budgeted for that, or do we just, where do we get the money if we had like 3 or 4 hearings? That doesn't seem to be in this calculation.
Through the chair, currently any hearing expenses are being, I understand they are being covered by the regional board. So it's assumed that a piece of that, our fee, our $2,000 fee, is covering those hearing costs, which is part of their justification for increasing the cost of 2,000 to 7,500, as they've noted. May not have been an increase in hearings for us. However, the number of hearings associated with it with other jurisdictions may have been increasing.
Yeah, it says here in the second paragraph that hearings are billed on a cost recovery basis. So that kind of suggested to me that there is
An extra cost.
an extra cost for hearings.
Sure,
And-
that's definitely a possibility if it's in the agreement. So yes.
I also checked with Palliser to see if they did assessment reviews, and they don't. They do subdivision appeals, but they don't do assessment reviews. So I kind of thought if we're with Palliser with that, we could be, but they don't do these.
Great. Through the chair, so the two different boards are very different. They're both quasi judicial boards, which means the setup is very much like a court setting, with a judging entity, aka the board itself, and then the two sides presenting their cases. One thing of note is with assessment review boards, the regional board has reached out to us to ask if we have any additional members that want to volunteer. And we did receive a request for that. I believe it was late last year as well. So they're currently handling it through a pool of members and volunteers on that board. However, it's interesting to hear that our members have never been asked when they were asking us for more volunteers.
How long was your accreditation for there, Tom?
It's last 3 years, and I'm actually not sure if I am still. Like I did it a couple of years ago. It might have been 3 years ago. So I might not be even accredited now. I can't remember exactly, but I think I handed in all my certificates and stuff to the town. But
Okay, thanks for that. Was there ever any getting together with local, Starland, Knee anything like that, to see if they had any call for this kind of thing too? Because they must have to have this kind of a board as well. You didn't, nothing that you're aware of? No. That might be something to think about. And I mean, you have to round up people. Like, I don't know how many people are on the board. I think it was quite a few there, actually, wasn't it? It's about 8 or 9. Do you know?
Mr. Mayor, each board hearing requires 3 participants. It is usual practice, though, to have 4 or 5 people appointed to your board. So just in case a person isn't available on a specific date, then you have another person that from the pool that you can choose from. But for each hearing, you are required to have 3 board members.
Yeah, and just again, the difference between a CARB and a LARB, the commercial assessment review has to have a chair from the province. So the chair of a CARB has to be a provincial person.
That is correct. Prior to the switching out of the Municipal Government Board, or the MGB, it was a member that was appointed through them. But that entity I know has changed now. I think it all falls under the Property and Land Rights Tribunal. But yes, that's the Composite Assessment Review Board does require that participation.
Okay, any further questions from anyone on this? Okay, Deputy Mayor Cloughlin.
Thank you. I think it's the right decision, I think, to stick with this for the year, but when we do reassess it, I'm curious if, because of the expense that it takes to put it together, could we actually, with other smaller communities, offer it as almost a fee for service or something like that, that they could be not necessarily as established as a member as this, but if they had to run a thing that we could, possibly charge for it, or at least cost recover for it?
Through the chair, I would recommend, as part of that evaluation, to reach out to our surrounding municipalities and see if, I know from my experience, having been an assessment review board clerk and part of this process, it's always, given that it is an exam-based qualification process, when you do step up and volunteer as a board member, it is hard. Our biggest challenge would probably be in finding enough volunteers to sit on the board. So that would be a challenge. As far as the legislative changes go and amending our bylaws, that's, I'm not too concerned. That's it's a pretty straightforward process. But it's more about the unknown of when a hearing is required, and it is a process, just like in the legal system, where you have to provide evidence and you have to provide it within a certain amount of time and you have to circulate it within a certain amount of time, and that all falls on the assessment review board clerk to do that process. So that is where the cost comes in, for sure. But I'm glad Councillor Zarisky pointed out that we get billed for that anyway when we do require a hearing.
Just one other comment, then I'll shut up. One of the conversations that we had regarding this was there was a bit of a worry about, say, a counselor sitting on assessment review board for a local citizen. The objectivity might not be there. So the suggestion was, well, if you have, a local resident appealing their assessment, and you had some people from out of town kind of reviewing it, that might even actually be a better thing. So that was kind of one of the conversations that we had.
I could see that too, yeah. Okay, Councillor McNeil.
Thank you, and I appreciate your comment, Councillor Zarisky, because I was thinking that I think there would be an advantage to having this out of town to help maintain neutrality in these hearings.
Agreed, yep. All right, any, oh,
Just to add to the conversation, in my previous history, how we managed that was we allowed for one member of council to be on the board at any given time instead of any more than that of the 3-person panel. And the reasoning behind that at the time was to ensure that awareness of local knowledge is also present in trying to define and make a decision as part of the process.
thank you for that, for clarifying that. Any further questions? Anything else? No? All right, we'll go to a vote on this. So we are voting on approving our $5,500 to maintain our regional assessment board budget inclusion. All right, all in favor? Okay, carried. All right, I guess we can go back to our 6.1, our RCMP. Hello, sir. How you doing? Get stuck in the water out there? The boat?
Oh, there we go. Just dealing with somebody. I went to one local bank, wanted to show everybody his knife and how nice it is. I might have to excuse myself to, if I get a phone call, to give directions, but so far so good. Sorry about that. Would you like me to read the letter, or we're good with that? I don't want to subject you to my French accent if I don't have to.
The letter, a letter of.
It's the cover letter. It's basically introducing the quarterly report and all that.
Oh, you can skip that.
Okay. There's also a letter that was sent by the new commanding officer for Alberta, introducing himself and what his vision will be. That was on the second page, third and fourth. So if the council agrees, I'll just jump into the community priorities. The first one was crime reduction and prevention. We've been ramping up the compliance check on the offenders that have been released within the community. So we completed roughly 250 compliance check, which resulted in a certain number of charges. I didn't compile them here, but we've worked in sending people back to detention if the court will allow it. So we've arrested them, charged them under new charges as well as breaching, and then compelled them to court. The ones we confined, we sought out warrants, and we're looking for them at this time. We haven't done in that quarter, keeping in mind that this is until the 1st of December, the old quarters. At that time, we had no fraud presentation that had been accomplished due to manpower shortages and workload. The Operation Street Sweep that was scheduled, we had to cancel because I think at that day it was minus 40. None of our partners want to come out and play. So what we did is we did throughout the remainder of the month some unofficial street sweep where we specifically targeted people that were highest priority. And we did get a few. Priority number 2, public engagement, transparency, visibility. In that period, we had no town hall completed. There was multiple town hall meeting scheduled for January, which took place. I did one in, that'll be the next quarter, but I did one in Barron and I did one here, which Mr. Mayor attended along with a few council persons. We completed many media releases this quarter. Part of what we're doing here to enhance the transparency is weekly we're doing in partnership with the local newspaper, we do what we've done during the week, the kind of calls that we've attended, the number of calls, and then we usually add a small piece in there about what was the most common crime that we're seeing an increase and how not to be a victim of it. Usually it's fraud that has been very popular, depending on how you look at it, I guess. So we've also partnered up with the Drumheller communication officers, and we're using their Facebook page for some information pieces as well. That's going to ramp up again in the next quarter and going forward. We attended the Remembrance Day ceremony in Red Surge in multiple communities and took part in a Cram the Cruiser event, which was very successful in raising toys and other things for the kids and needy families. And actually, when I look at the number of members that attended the red search ceremony, I was quite pleased because in most detachment, you're lucky if you get one person. That's usually the detachment commander. In this case, we had quite a few members attending. So it's a good indication on the detachment. In December, we held one coffee with a cop and one with the rural community, like the Ottawaite community. We did, however, do several impromptu one, which is my favorite one. I find that if we do plan a coffee with a cop, say on December 2nd, people show up, but then we get called out to serious a call. We can't make it. We look bad. My approach has been more informal. Well, I'll send my members, myself, we go to a coffee shop or a restaurant to interact with people. That accomplishes the same thing, but without the risk of, oh my God, the cops never showed up, right? Priority number 3, reduce substance abuse. So again, we had manpower shortages throughout the last year, quarter. My plainclothes unit, the GIS unit, was down to 1 officer. At some time down to 0 because we had to put him on a watch as well to make sure that responding to call was being taken care of. So what has resulted is we had no large-scale drug investigations. We do have some on the back burner that they're slowly working even in that period of time. Now, and I'll touch on the manpower later, but now that we're getting our members back, they're going to go back to their various duties and we'll reactivate what we're working on. We investigated 21 cases of drug possession or trafficking. A lot of them were at the pen. On an offside, the corporal GIS and my constable that are going to be in that section, I'm slowly developing them into a court expert for drug trafficking at the pen, which right now there's nobody else in Canada that's being trained that way. That's going to assist us in reducing drug investigation or trafficking at the pen. Again, I can't talk about the ongoing investigations or the one that are in the back burner because we don't want to tip up the bad guys. There have been no drug awareness or high-risk awareness presentation this quarters. Once I get all my members back, we are going to start those again. Priority number 4, which is traffic or enhance road safety. We, sorry, in that quarter, we successfully removed 5 impaired drivers from the road. We completed 4 check stop, resulting in another impaired driver being caught and charged. We issued 37 traffic tickets, 4 written warnings issued in that quarter. We've instituted a certain number of measures. One of them will take place starting April. We're going to do 1 traffic-oriented overtime shift per month with a certain number of tickets to be reached, like the amount of tickets. The idea being that the municipality will get half the cost or the half the fines issued back. So my goal is that, well, it's twofold. First of all, increase visibility and enhance the road safety. But as well is if it's costing, and I'll just say $1,000 in overtime cost for my member, I expect $2,000 in fine to be issued. So that's going to be cost neutral if you want in the municipality. In light of the measures, because I've been pushing my members out on the road a lot more, because traffic safety is the number 1 priority really for the people that are calling us. Right now, we're having a hard time getting anybody speeding. The fastest that my guys are seeing people drive most days and most nights now is 109. So we don't get like the 140 or 150 anymore. I'm not sure if the word's gone around that we're on the road, but we'll take that. But if anybody want to go out and speed, please. We did a series of community consultation, like I was saying, coffee and everything, but would you like me to go through them or they're accepted as is?
I think we're if there's anything that really sticks out, other than that, I think you can skip through.
I touched base with, and that's part of the next year's priorities. I was in consultation with Mr. Greg Peters to try to identify policing priorities for next year. There's a new process in place. The onus is shifting from the detached commander more onto the town councils to let us know what they would like us to focus on. What is suggested, however, they wanted me to identify 3. I've identified 4, but again, that will be your decisions. But the first one, due to the amount of calls for service that we're getting, is again traffic road safety. That seems to be our number 1 calls for service. Then there was crime reduction for drugs. Number 3 was visibility and engagement. And number 4 was again crime reduction, but for property crime. So these are the 4 that I was suggesting, but I will wait to hear from the council and Mr. Peters if those are acceptable.
I'm not sure what, well, I guess we'll talk about that and we'll have to, I guess we have our opportunity now to express our thing, but you know, I thought that I saw there was a initiative there in Calgary, and I saw that they were doing engaging with the kids in schools about getting hit by cars.
Okay.
And I thought that was I thought that held some validity because you know, all those people from town are going to be driving through here in a couple months.
Mhm.
So it might be a good way to, you know, light the candles on the kids to really watch when they're going on intersections or around streets and stuff like that. I guess a person could look. I think I actually saved it on my Facebook thing to have a look at and see what they were doing to engage the kids on that. Eh?
Okay.
But there was through the schools. Eh?
I've asked my traffic members to look into doing some presentation next year's in those lines. One presentation that I'm very fond of, but again, it's in consultation with the school, is we're actually bringing in a victim of texting and driving. It's very powerful. Unfortunately, some schools deemed it too powerful. So that's one thing we're going to be looking at, seeing is there an appetite for that here in the schools. We've reestablished some of the relationship with the schools in this quarter, so that'll be discussed next quarter. But we basically we did lockdown drills in one of the schools in light of what happened in Tumbler Ridge. We kept it very low key, if you want. We went in and just did a tabletop amongst ourselves. What is the police first reaction to what's happening? None of the kids and the teacher knew what we were doing. We're just talking. And then we went through the school with the principal and highlighted some areas of concern or a lot of areas where they were doing really well. Obviously, if we knock on the door and everybody's laughing in the class, that was an area that needed some improvement. But other than that, the school did very well. So we're doing another one next month and a few more. So we're going to partner with the schools to see if we can go in and train with them along the same ways, and as well as knowing the layout of the school to speed things up for us. Yeah. Same with Citizen on Patrol in various municipalities. They hadn't talked to us in years, so I'm restarting the conversation with them and getting more involved with them. All of these factors should help us reducing various property crime.
No, that's good. I'm sure that the you know, with the Tumbler Ridge thing going on, it's really brought that to everyone's attention, and that's something that probably never really thought about. I'm sure it's a valid concern for sure.
That's all.
Anybody got anything else? Need a motion for this? Okay. We'll get a motion to accept then. Councillor Zawicki.
Yeah, I move that council accepts the RCMP 2025-2026 Q3 report as information.
Thank you. I'm gonna get a seconder. Councillor McNeil. Thank you. All in favor? Pardon me? Discussion. I thought we were having it earlier. Okay. All right. Carry on then. You're the first one, Councillor Zawicki.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Couple of comments. First of all, staffing. At this time of year, of course, we are finished with winter. Cross your fingers. And we're looking forward to the summer. And of course, Drumheller being the third most popular tourist destination in Alberta right now. I mean, we increase our population from 8,000 people in April to 25,000 in July. Just wondering on the projections of staffing for the summer. Will we be at full complement by the summer, do you think? Or
Well, as a matter of fact, we're gonna be at full complement -1. I'm getting 2 members back from their parental leave this month and next month. One's actually starting next week again. We do have a new member that just joined us from Smoky Lake. He's got a little over 3 years experience. From what I've seen of him so far, very impressed, very happy with the new addition. So we do have, we have an experienced police officer from Calgary that's patching over to us. He's gonna be reporting to us towards the end of April. Unfortunately, he's only scheduled to go to depot for the 3 weeks training at the end of May of June. But he will be in full force by the summer. So, and I'm working on getting that one last position to have somebody to step into it. So there's a few options I'm looking at right now, but we will go back to being able to provide you guys the best service that we can. In the meantime, and even going forward, I've partnered with the local sheriffs to do some joint operations with them, with the peace officer from town and from the different municipalities going as far back as Wheatland, to do joint operation with them. So even though that doesn't increase their numbers, it does give us a bigger impact out there on operations and day-to-day activities. If I'm not sure if that answered your question, but
yeah, a further comment concerning the priorities. I know our police committee in the past did a survey of residents, just asking for their input in terms of priorities. I'm just wondering, is our police committee getting ready to be up and running? Would they be doing something like that? Would they be having input into the priorities?
Not this year, Mr. Zawicki. No, we're just hashing out a final policy glitch, which Angela's helping us with the committee, and then we'll be settling that. But it's not. I knew you were going to ask that, but it's not complete yet. It will be shortly, and Staff Sergeant is aware.
My one last comment concerning road safety, and I don't know if you've noticed this over the last few years, but what I found driving on the highways at night, I found that the low beams, figuratively speaking, on some vehicles seems to be very, very bright, just as bright as a high beam, and I know they're low beams because the vehicle as it goes by and blinds me, then switches to their high beams going past. And what it seems to me to be is a lot of the jacked up pickup trucks seem to be the brightest. And I'm just wondering if there's something that's going on. I mean, they set the lights for the vehicle and then they jack them up and they forget to turn the lights down a little bit or something. But it's very, very bright. I mean, as bright as headlight. And I know there's a law that you can't have your high beams on all the time. You have to dim them. But for a lot of these vehicles, it's just as bright as high beams. And I'm just wondering, have you noticed that? Is there been any kind of discussion or anything you can do?
unfortunately, like in a lot of cases, I mean, technology is getting better and better for the headlights. So with the LED lights, and I think they have a different type, even higher than those now, there's nothing we can do. They're set by the manufacturer. Canada's accepted those guidelines, so there's not much we can do. The only thing we can act on is, like you're saying, if you get your vehicle jacked up, you're supposed to lower the light the way that they point, right? So if we have somebody like in traffic that's specializing in that, they're trained to recognize that, they can do something. It's also illegal to have like additional lights on your vehicle. That is something else that we can act upon, right? If you're driving with like 30 lights on your vehicle. But unfortunately, you're right. Like and I've observed the same thing driving back is it's quite blinding, but there's nothing we can do with a normal vehicle.
I got kind of input on that. A lot of times you'll see those trucks, they'll have a trailer on them and they got a load on the trailer and the trailer's actually tilting them up a little bit there. That's part of the issue that I've noticed going my 20K at nights, right? So I get what you're saying though, Mr. Peters.
We researched this a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. This is a federal standard of headlights. It's all rooted in a very, not hard to find, but there's a very detailed federal light standard for intensity and everything else that you asked this question, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago, Mr. Zabriskie, and we researched it extensively to find out that as the Staff Sergeant mentioned, changing technology, but it's all comes back. They all must meet. It's all part of a federal standard, whether it's the cars made in England or North America or Japan. There's a federal standard for headlights, headlight intensity, and headlight composition. That it's all there. It's not a fun read, but it's all there, sir.
Councillor Miller.
Thanks through the chair. Out of curiosity, I was just wondering how often does the RCMP from Drumheller get called up to the pen?
Sorry, how often?
Yeah.
Any drone alert that we get called out. And any, I'm going to say, mischievous activities that the prisoners do amongst themselves, we get called. We're the police of authority for the pen. So I would say maybe 2 or 3 times a week, usually for stabbing or, that happened like a few days ago, for example. Yeah. Drone is an area that's contentious for us because we know what they're doing, but the drone regulations in Canada, and again, I just sent 2 members to Toronto to learn more about how we can defeat drones and everything, and they came back with, there's not much we can do because we're liable for everything we do, and they won't let us. So, for example, what I was really after was as exclusion zones, if you want, that nothing works in there, cell phones or drone technology, obviously. And the answer I got was, well, yeah, but if a drone gets in that zone, drops down, hurts somebody, you're liable. If somebody is a pacemaker, it stops working because you're doing that, you're liable. So at this point, there's nothing that we can do. And keeping in mind that most governments have a finite amount of money to devote to technology to fight drones, bad guys have no such problems. So every time that we create a new technology to defeat them, they're already like a few steps ahead of us with new technology.
Mr. Peters.
If I may just add one thing, there is a federal document designated restricted designated airspace handbook. And in that document, it's quite extensive. There will be a listing of all sensitive installations, including federal institutions, and each has its own guidelines for what can or cannot fly near it. And some will have if you will, an invisible cone of above it that extends up. There should be nothing in that airspace. From time to time, there will be film crews or contractors working in the valley, and we have a pretty good relationship with them contacting myself as the go-between, and then I will liaise with the prison to advise of the exact time and date, the exact drone being used. So that is permitted. So there is a restriction. There's a restriction around the heliport at the hospital, for example, regarding what can or cannot be in proximity to that because of stars coming in. So there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of things to do with airspace. The prison has a very difficult time as it is, and let alone with all this on this frontier of drones now that's been unleashed. But we do have a hand in this, and at times we will talk to the RCMP about drone activity. But to the most part, contractors, movie crews, filming near the institution are allowed to do so. But we liaise and try to make it work legally with their full disclosure to the institution. And so far so good with legal activity anyway, staff. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Anybody? Good. Deputy Mayor Clapham.
Thank you. I appreciate your presentation and laying out the potential areas of focus and priorities. I'm just sort of curious. They're very similar to last year's, with sort of changing. When I look at it, crime reduction and prevention versus property crime. Are indicators showing that we need to be focusing more on specifically property crime? Like when I look at the crime reduction, the compliance checks, those things have all, I think, have been fairly successful. But is there something pointing us more towards property crime instead of just generalized?
No, I think we've been successful in reducing property crime because we've been so aggressively pursuing condition checks. I mean, let's be honest, the majority of crimes are committed by a very small number of repeat offenders. My focus has always been to target those repeat offenders and get them to spend as much time in jail as possible. True curfew check breaches and everything. Um, that being said, though, it's still a factor. We still have, especially in the farming communities, like with the pivots and everything, we do have copper theft and everything. So that's why I want to target property crime. We don't have a big problem of like the people breaking into people's residence and so on. That is not a problem. Overall, this is a very safe community. But I'm just looking at the overall number of calls for the year, what type is more prevalent, and these are what comes up to me.
Councillor Henson.
I just got to look over this way here for a minute. And we had an FCSS meeting yesterday, and part of the discussion was if there would be any chance of bringing an RCMP officer into the high school, kind of on a regular basis to set up a relationship with the students, and some of the students that have issues and don't know who to go to or whatever, like if there's a program that we can get started where we can work that out and maybe build a relationship between some of the students that need help. And
Um, yes and no. So, sorry about that. So first of all, I cannot have a dedicated school resource officer whose only job it is to be in the schools. I don't have the resources to allow me that. Now, if the council was to offer additional funding for such a position, then by all means I would do that. In the meantime, because I do believe that we do belong in schools talking with the students, it's all about being visible, but it's all about humanizing the police officer, which I'm very keen on. So I do have officers that are assigned to schools. Um, Part of that is I keep track of the school visits that they're doing. And then once they've gone to the school, I talk to them and say, okay, what did you do? Like, it's, if you're telling me that you went to the school, you walked through the hall, you didn't talk to anyone, well, to me, that's useless. You need to interact with students. You need to uh, get something positive going. That being said, though, is not so much, I haven't observed that here. In my previous community, we had schools that absolutely refused to have us on the school grounds. Even if we did call there for different types, it was we were escorted on a school property. If we talked to a student, there was a principal or somebody else there at all time. So here, from what I've seen, it's a lot more positive. So yes, we're gonna do the best that we can, which is to assign one constable to each school, keeping in mind that the other constable are also welcome to go and interact with the students. For example, we're setting up something at the end of April, mid-April and end of April, where we're gonna partner up the teachers and the students and do a dodgeball games. So give the student a chance to hit us with a ball, I guess. I don't like my chances.
Counselor Zarisky.
As a former principal, I think the principals would ask that you park an unmarked vehicle at the school, because invariably we would have people coming to our school, even a couple of members come and play basketball at noon hour, and they'd park the vehicle out front of the school, and my phone would be just ringing off the hook. What's going on at the school? What's the disaster? Why are the police? It's like, oh. So use an unmarked vehicle if you could. That would be wonderful.
All right. Tip, you one more here? Okay.
Just sort of follow up and really quickly, when we talk about the priorities, are we talking about both our municipal detachment and the provincial detachment? Or we all work just right out of those same ones? There's no real difference between the rural, what you're seeing?
No, we wouldn't be able to do like different priorities for all the various community that this detachment polices. But I mean, at the end of the day, the priorities that I'm recommending are pretty well the same priorities that every other detachment across Alberta in one way or another is recommending, because they're the same complaints everywhere, or the same issues for the most part. Some areas will have like slightly different ones, but they all boil down to these four ones. Yes.
Actually, Mitch, he'd probably get a kick out of that book we found. We'll have to enlighten you someday. Anyways, yeah. Any other further questions from anybody else? No? All right. So can we get a motion now? Well, can we do our final vote? Okay, there we go. Can I gotta keep my track up here. I got so many marks. All right, all in favor? All right, motion carried. All right, thank you for that, Chris. All right, now, what are we on to? We are on to section 8.1. Can I get someone to make a motion on that? Okay, Councillor Hardy.
I'll move that council closes the meeting to the public at 5:33 p.m. to discuss provincial infrastructure information requests as per ATIA 26, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations, and ATIA 29.
Point of order. There's been an additional change to the motion. If you want to just withdraw that motion and repeat that.
Okay, withdraw the motion. I move that council closes the meeting to the public at 5:33 p.m. to discuss provincial infrastructure information requests, CAO update, and recreation and culture asset discussion as per ATIA 19, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, and ATIA 26, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations, and ATIA 29, advice from officials.
Okay, we're all good with that. All right. Can I get a seconder? Councillor McNeil, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in here tonight, folks, and drive safe out there.